In this episode, you're going to meet and actually enter the mind of a convicted fraudster. He used his brains as well as his charm to defraud many people out of their money, but more than that, he devastated the hearts of women he lured into the fraud, leaving a trail of financial ruin and broken hearts.
This whole relationship was a sham, it was a scam.
This fraud was not a victimless crime, and it left a path of ruin and heartache and bankruptcy and broken trust and sickness.
I'm convinced that he's a sociopath.
Always felt that I was on the periphery looking in.
There were hundreds of thousands of dollars collected.
His debt with my family alone was over $500,000.
He preys on single mothers, mainly with children.
I don't suspect that the people that I hurt are even close to being through this, to being healed.
Jeff Kent targeted women in order to make his fraud work. He created a fictional life for himself. He became a financially secure doctor and convinced women to help him develop a new business. The business included online hotel reservations and was all just a scam. Kent used the business to steal people's credit card information and left the women holding the bag.
I met Jeff, I was in a restaurant with my friend for dinner. After dinner, we moved to the bar, and Jeff was at the bar. He mentioned he was a doctor, but at the moment, he wasn't practicing.
I really didn't think that it was going to ever go on beyond that meeting, and I was really quite grandiose in the story that I told her. I told her I was a doctor.
There was this business at the same time he was doing.
I told her that I had this travel business that I was focusing on at the time, and I wasn't practicing. She believed me. She trusted me.
He mentioned that he has a daughter who's living in California, who's studying, had a wife, just passed away from cancer. At the moment, a family member has been battling cancer, and so it was kind of close to home and just kind of clicked right there. He could relate to what I was feeling, so.
She had been married before and had a 9-year-old son, and she lived a pretty hard life, and I think that when she met me, she had a lot of hope.
At the end of the night, we exchanged phone numbers, and just like any other single people meet, you know, at the restaurant, at the bar, at the movie. Just a normal scenario. She phoned me the next day, asked me out for lunch.
Kent now had one of his future victims. Kent asked Natasha on several dates, and after a few months, the relationship started getting serious, or so Natasha thought.
He was a nice guy. He was a sweet guy. He was a caring person. He loved animals. For God's sakes, he adopted 2 pets for me. And that's what he does. That's his MO. He goes to family, he gets involved deeply. He goes to SPCA and adopts a pet. That just gets you all in a big, loving, happy family.
I had all the sort of trappings that a doctor would have, apart from being a doctor. I had a nice home, I had a nice vehicle, I lived a very somewhat lavish and luxurious life.
He would take people off medication and in front of me would give people medical advice and take stitches out. I mean, anything that a doctor would do. It's pretty surreal to watch him remove somebody's stitches or take them off like a psychotic medication.
He went on holiday maybe about 4 months into our relationship. He kept calling all the time, emails. He was like, he was there all the time. Say that he would miss me and wants to see me again and can't wait until I get back. When I got back, he literally proposed to me that night. I felt like he was the one, just a great, nice guy, worthy to be a part of my life.
Kent and Natasha were married, and soon after, Kent convinced Natasha and her sister to invest in his online hotel reservation business. Romance scams often start through meetings on the internet dating websites or chat rooms. True or false? Well, the answer is true. Romance scammers use dating websites and set up fake profiles in order to attract possible victims for their fraud. The fraudsters' intent is to trick the people they meet on these sites out of their money.
The business that Jeff Kent operated was an online hotel reservation site. So what he would do is advertise hotels at a discounted rate. So if somebody from anywhere in the world looked at his website, there were hotels that were cheaper than the actual rate being offered by the actual hotel. So clients were naturally attracted to his website and would contact the business and would provide them with their credit card information.
Kent set up this fraudulent business and lured Natasha's sister to move across the country to work. Kent tricked the sisters into signing all of the financial documents. Kent needed the sisters' good credit.
Because it was my sister, it made it a little easier. It wasn't somebody I met on the street corner who claimed to have a business and was a doctor. And almost immediately he took us around and showed us a couple offices. We picked a location, and he said, now we're gonna have to go and register a few business names. And so we went and we picked like 5. I said, why 5? He said, well, because sometimes, you might want to separate the businesses, so it's better to have several entities than just one. And it was kind of odd because none of the business names that we chose said hotel. He called it a partnership, said it would be a partnership, a 50-50 partnership. However, everything had to be in my name. So all the bank accounts had to be in my name, all the registrations had to be in my name. He had the full control of the accounts. First of all, I didn't understand how merchant services works.
If you were to go and start up a business today, you were to start up a similar business today, and you were to apply for merchant services, it would be all based on your good credit, not what you own or whatnot. As long as the people that I was asking to be the owner of the business had good credit, they didn't need to have any type of established equity in their lives.
All it is an application which you sign up and put your SIN number and address and a signature, and then you fax it in, and then 5 days later there's a knock on your door and there's a terminal laying at the door. So anybody, theoretically knowing my name and my address and could fake whatever signature and putting my SIN number, could get that terminal and Bob's your uncle. Obviously you need accounts to go with it, but it's just so easy to get that equipment that it was unreal.
I was in control of the accounts. I kept control of it. I was a doctor. I could be trusted. My wife and sister-in-law, they didn't know necessarily what was happening with the business because everyone thought I was a doctor and everyone thought I was an upstanding person. They trusted me and let me control the business and all of its accounts.
We were all together. We were all one group, and it was a business that was a legitimate business that was meant to bring a lot of profit and prosperity.
The ticket cost on hotels is, average hotel is $150 a night. So if someone is staying an average of 2.5 nights, each sale would be $500. So on a lot of days, we would do 100 sales. That would be $50,000 in sales a day.
The hotel reservation business brought in a lot of money. But Natasha and her sister started to get worried because they were receiving way too many customer complaints. Imagine showing up at a hotel thinking you had a reservation and the hotel has never heard of you.
And they're calling me on my cell phone because we redirected, like when we would leave the office. He didn't do it, but I did. I redirected like my regular phone line to my cell phone, so I could catch those calls at night. I thought if it's a new customer or an existing customer service. So they would call me, right? Time zones are different. 3 o'clock in the morning, I would wake up, freak out,
which hotel?
and I'm at the hotel, and my reservation isn't there, and there's no room at this hotel, and I was terrified because first of all, I thought we've done something wrong, and that's not okay because I've been a traveler many times. That's not fun. That's not cool. So what he would do is he would have a database of all these credit cards that he had taken in 4, 5, 8 months of operating a business. And he waited for the very last minute until he knew that would hit the fan. And so in one night or in 2 nights, he would pull out all of his records and all of his credit card numbers from his files. And it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars valued. And he would ring them all in at once, so process each card. The merchant company the following day would make a deposit. So if he closed the batch off today for $150,000, the following day that merchant company would make a deposit to his account. So what he would do, he would wait until he knew that he's about to skip out or this is it. And so he would take that $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 and bring them at once. And then he knew that that's it for this company, for this business. He'd cash out the money.
Though my wife and her sister and brother-in-law were complicit in being involved in the business, they were not part of the online fraud where I would defraud customers of their credit cards.
What is a sign that you may have fallen victim to a romance scam? Someone has fallen in love with you very quickly? Your new romantic interest asks you for help financially? The person you are seeing is vague about their background and family history? All of the above. Well, the answer, of course, is all of the above. Although we all like to believe that love can happen quickly, normally it takes its own course in time. Secondly, if your new lover is vague about their family or they want to borrow money almost immediately, these are all signs that you may be involved in a romance scam. Kent was worried that some of the people he ripped off in the hotel might complain to the police. So he took the bold step of visiting the police department to find out any information on the investigation.
Kent told me that he had been told by an investigator from Consumer Protection that the police had entered into a criminal investigation that was in conjunction with their investigation, and he simply wanted to come in and find out if he could help us. My first impression of Kent was he was trying to obtain information from the police as opposed to his expressed reason why he wanted to talk to us. When I started to interview him, he was asking me more questions than what I was trying to ask him. I had to stop Jeff during the interview and explain to him that that's not how the police investigation process is going to work, that somebody doesn't just walk in off the street and request information from the police about what we're investigating and what their role is in the investigation.
Well, Detective Menzies knew something was up after this strange encounter with Kent. Menzies left the interrogation room and started to check Kent out.
When I discovered there was in fact a victim that had come forward, and I started to present that information to Mr. Kent, he decided he did not want to speak any longer to me, maybe fearful that he was going to provide information to the police that was detrimental to him.
Kent's house of cards was now very fragile and could come tumbling down at just about any moment. Kent used his smooth talking abilities and told the sisters that the police may want to talk to them. He calmly claimed that nothing was wrong and the police were just out to get him.
Thought that at some point I was going to bail out the financial mess that I had created. I had no means to do so.
And finally, the day came, he ran out of excuses. I was 7 months pregnant, and he just laid it out. Like, everything I am is a lie. Everything I said is a lie. There is no ex-wife who died. There is no child who is living in California. There is no money, there is no doctor, there is no nothing. I'm just a fake, and I'm a loser, but open this door, I want to get out. I need to go. I knew I knew it was a reality. I knew I'm standing on my feet. I just knew that I have to keep him in this apartment until the police show up. This guy is a crook, and he wants to run away from just taking away from me so much, and he just wants to disappear into a thin air. And that's when I didn't let him go, because I couldn't let guard of the door. I stood there guarding the door. Took my head and started smacking it against the door. He walked over to the phone, called 911 and said, I'm trying to leave my house and my wife is not letting me go. And then they're asking him, put your wife on the phone. So this person on the end of the line can hear this conversation. Of course, she dispatches the police.
The police arrived and arrested Kent for assault. He quickly made bail and disappeared into thin air. No one knew where he was, and the police now wanted to arrest him for the fraud. Police doggedly worked on the case to track down this serial fraudster.
My child was born, and I had to have custody arrangements for my child, and it's just a must. And so Jeff Kent was nowhere to be found, and I Googled Jeff Kent's name, and this website came up. Something medical BC, and Jeff Kent is on the list amongst numerous of doctors. There's a place on that page where you can make a comment about the doctor, and that's where I made a comment saying that not a doctor, a fraud, a criminal.
If you think you've been the victim of a romance scam, what should you do? Arrange to meet the scammer in a public place so you can confront him or her? Cease all contact immediately. Advise the dating service and report the fraud to police. Play along with the scammer and try to trick him or her out of his money. Try to find other victims of the fraudster. Well, the answer is B. Dealing with fraud artists and scammers is a matter for the police. Report all you know about the fraudster to your local police. They may have other complaints, and they may be able to make an arrest.
2 years before we were able to process all of the information and determine victims, put everything together, and I started learning about new victims still as I was investigating these businesses. He was still out there doing it exactly, and meeting people and socially engineering them to believe he was somebody that he wasn't. So when I arrested Jeff, he was in a house with one of his new victims, and her family had actually flown in to be with her for the wedding. The charges were fraud over $5,000. I think we had several counts because each of the women were a count and combined with the losses in the credit card companies. Jeff, he pled guilty and he was sentenced to 4 years in jail.
Do I believe that he planned this? Yes, I do. But I don't think necessarily it was planned for me per se. The plan was an existent plan. He works in a plan. He just changed the characters and the names and the last names, but it's a system that works for him.
You gotta really look into everything. You have to get to know their family and their friends, and just really look into everything. There are many Jeff Kents out there.
I think we're all capable of doing anything that we've already done once. I think that if the circumstances were to line up again, if I was to end up in the exact same position that I was back then, I think I'm absolutely capable of doing it again.
My biggest, I guess, buku is women. romantic con artists, because there are a lot of men out there who are doing this. They're calling women, they're falling in love with these women on the internet. Women have been taken advantage of for so long, and then also there are men who have been taken advantage of because of women that are con artists. But the romantic con artist has not been discussed enough as far as I'm concerned. Don't just move on. Speak up, because the laws have not caught up with romantic con artists. We did not have internet laws 30 years ago. We do now, because we had to make the laws as the crimes were being committed. And this is one of those unspoken, unclaimed, uncharged crimes, because everybody tells them, oh, just move on, just get on with your life, just forget about it, just get him out of your life. Don't let him get away with it.
Exactly.
So please, women, men too, pay attention to what you're doing, how you're living, what you're allowing someone to convince you to put on the internet. And that includes charge card numbers, everything. Be more discreet, physically and business-wise.
It was just a friend's experience. I remember her losing her, she called it identity loss. And it was such a emotional experience for her. She really felt that she was, privacy was invaded. She felt very, very threatened. And it took her almost 6 months to get over that experience, actually. It's like someone coming into your home and stealing your stuff, right? So, yeah, and they took on her name, they took on her birth date, everything. And she had to change every ID she had. And it was really traumatic for her. I only remember that.
I think sometimes online dating sites are a little bit of a scam. I don't know what to say. I mean, maybe it works for people, but I just think, be careful if you're going on there. I mean, it sure works, but I just think be careful.